They called him a lost cause. The billionaire's son, lying motionless in a hospital bed for over 6 months, his once bright future fading into whispers of pity and resignation. But one night, when a young nurse leaned close and whispered words no one else dared to say, his fingers moved. Was it a miracle? Or had he been listening all along? What happened next would change not only his life, but hers forever. The sterile white walls of St. Mary's private hospital carried secrets of untold battles, victories of life, defeats of death, and the silence of those in between. In room 307 lay Adrian Cole, son of one of the most powerful billionaires in the city. At just 26, he had been an heir, a visionary in his father's company, until a brutal car crash shattered his world. Now, hooked up to machines, he had become a breathing shadow of who he once was. Doctors had done their best. Neurosurgeons had tried everything: surgery, therapy, experimental medications. But nothing brought him back. For 6 months, his body remained still, his eyes shut, and his mind unreachable. Most of the nurses treated him as a routine task: check vitals, adjust the 4, note the chart, leave. To them, he was just another patient in a coma, unresponsive, unreachable, unmoving. But to her, he was something more. Her name was Clara Hayes, a young nurse fresh out of nursing school, carrying both compassion and burdens heavier than her frame suggested. Unlike the others, she lingered after her shifts, speaking softly to Adrian, reading him stories, even telling him about her day, though she knew he couldn't hear. Or so everyone believed. One stormy evening, Clara sat by his bed, exhaustion evident in her tired eyes. She had worked a double shift, but still, she didn't leave him. Instead, she leaned closer, whispering the words that had lived in her heart since the first day she was assigned to him. Adrian. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you're in there, please don't give up. The world gave up on you, but I won't. You're not alone. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Clara sighed, brushing a stray tear away. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently, as she always did. And then, it happened. His finger twitched. Not once, not by accident, but with purpose. Clara gasped, her hands trembling. She looked at him, eyes wide with disbelief. Adrian? Did you move? Her heart pounded as his fingers shifted again, faint but undeniable. For the first time in 6 months, there was a sign. And Clara knew, this was no coincidence. He had heard her. The next morning, Clara rushed to the head physician, her voice urgent. Dr. Reynolds, he moved. Adrian, he responded last night. But the doctor only sighed, adjusting his glasses. Nurse Hayes, I've told you before, patients in prolonged comas often display involuntary muscle spasms. It doesn't mean he's regaining consciousness. Don't give the family false hope. False hope. The phrase cut deeper than a knife. Clara wanted to scream that this wasn't random, that she had seen him respond to her words. But the more she insisted, the more her colleagues dismissed her as naive, too emotionally attached. Still, Clara refused to give up. Night after night, she returned to room 307, whispering, reading, and holding his hand. Each time, she noticed more: a faint tightening of his grip, a flicker of his eyelid, the slightest turn of his head. Subtle signs no one else bothered to look for. Then one night, she leaned close again. Adrian, if you can hear me. If you're fighting to come back, move your hand for me. Just once. For a long moment, nothing happened. Clara closed her eyes, whispering a prayer. And then, his hand curled weakly around hers. Her tears spilled freely as she pressed her forehead against his arm. Thank you, she whispered. I knew you were still here. From that night forward, Clara became his anchor. She talked to him about the world outside, the sunlight he couldn't feel, the laughter he couldn't hear, the dreams she believed he still carried. Slowly, his responses grew stronger. A finger twitch turned into a hand squeeze. An eyelid flutter turned into the faintest attempt to open his eyes. One evening, weeks later, Clara whispered the words that had begun everything, "You're not alone, Adrian. I'm here." And for the first time, his lips moved. Weak, cracked, barely audible, but a word escaped. Air. Clara gasped, her heart flooding with hope. He wasn't just moving anymore. He was coming back. The world outside still doubted, the doctors still dismissed, but Clara knew the truth. Against all odds, against the silence of 6 long months, Adrian had chosen her voice as his lifeline. Because sometimes, all it takes to awaken the lost, is a whisper that refuses to give up. Never underestimate the power of words spoken with love. Even in the darkest silences, hope can find its way through. And sometimes, a single whisper can awaken not just a life, but a destiny.